All right, guys, as we have been following, one of the big races in the Senate this year is in Georgia and also the governor's race. And joining us now, rejoining the show, an old friend here, Greg Bluestein, who has a brand new book out. The title of it is Flipped: How Georgia Turned Purple and Broke the Monopoly on Republican Power. And that is what it looks like. You guys should all check that out. For those who are longtime viewers, you might remember when we were building up to the general election last time around, we polled people on like which reporters should we have on to break down all of these races, and that's how we found Greg. And now you've ended up and gone and gotten nationally famous, so we don't get to talk to you as much. But it's great to see you again.
Good to see you, man.
Hey, I'll come on anytime you want.
Oh, thank you. So just tell us a little bit about the book. How is it that Georgia went from being this sort of like solid red, forget about it Democrat state into now a true swing state, which could go either way?
Yeah, it was not some overnight success. This is not really a fluke. This took years of work from not just Stacey Abrams, but an entire web of activists and organizers and volunteers and voters around her. It took flipping the Atlanta suburbs that were used to be Republican fortresses and have become younger and more diverse. They're no longer this monolithically, white upper middle class stereotype that we think of when we think of suburbs of big cities. And of course, it took authentic messages. It took Democrats realizing that they should no longer run as Republican lights, but they should run as liberals with progressive messages. That helped energize and connect with a group of voters that felt disenchanted and disconnected with the electoral process, and helped them, capture hundreds of thousands of Democratic voters who never voted in midterms and even sometimes skipped presidential elections.
So, Greg, a fascinating element of this story to me is the MAGA element, where Trump himself is somehow able to lose the state of Georgia, and then even more so, tanks these two Senate elections in the runoffs. Can you just talk to us? Well, first of all, is my narrative accurate? Is that Trump's fault, or is it about macro political forces? How exactly do you think that this will then play out also in the future with the current primary of David Perdue and Brian Kemp?
That's a great question because, yes, Trump is partly to blame. His message of go vote in a rigged election in the January 2021 runoffs did not exactly help Kelly Loeffler or David Perdue, who were constantly trying to placate the president, appease him as he kept on moving the goalposts towards more and more vigorous demands that eventually get to the point where he demanded that they block Joe Biden's electoral college victory in the U.S. Senate. And this is still playing out. I mean, right now, all those characters I wrote about in the book in 2020, they're still at the center of the 2022 drama in Georgia and nationally, with David Perdue challenging Governor Brian Kemp for the Republican nomination. And David Perdue, of course, has Donald Trump's backing. Donald Trump even came to Georgia not that long ago and said that he'd rather see Stacey Abrams as governor than Brian Kemp. So this just shows you how this Trump-fueled dynamics are still shaping Georgia's election. And really, I think Georgia is the biggest test of Trump's influence in the entire nation.
Yes. Well, talk about that a little bit more, because I have to tell you, Saagar and I kind of called this primary thus far on the Republican side a little bit wrong, because Trump had been so outspoken about his Brian Kemp hatred, as you were just demonstrating. We thought, oh, once Perdue gets in, it's probably lights out for Kemp. Because if you look at Trump's approval ratings among Republican voters in Georgia, it's still extraordinarily high. He still carries a lot of weight in the party. But as of the last polls I saw, Kemp continues to hold on to a lead there. So what is happening in Georgia that is different from what sort of, people observing from the outside predicted might happen in this primary?
You're exactly right. Not only does Governor Kemp hold a lead, but he has a double-digit lead. He has an 11-point lead in some of the recent polls, including a recent poll that came out just after Donald Trump's last rally, which was just a few weeks ago here in Georgia. And it's defied some of the expectations. I mean, Governor Kemp treated this as a toss-up race right when David Perdue got in the contest. But it shows you the extent of Donald Trump's appeal. No one in Georgia who's watching this closely is counting David Perdue out. We have no idea how the next few weeks will go, whether or not the Trump base will show up in droves in the May 24th primary. But what we do know is that Brian Kemp has institutional structural advantages right now, starting with a huge fundraising advantage. He has outside support from groups like the Republican Governors Association, which is spending $5 million on his campaign just through May. And he's got the next few weeks to sign a bunch of bills that conservatives love, including a pro-gun bill that he's signing this week that has long been a dream of Second Amendment advocates.
Oh, that's
Let me
really
get this
interesting.
dog
Oh,
out of the
sure.
way.
Yeah, we don't mind.
Dog doesn't mind.
You're all good.
Audience won't care. We'll edit this, don't worry.
Sorry about that.
You're
It's all good. Completely fine.
We can edit it.
We'll edit that. Okay. All right.
That's right.
I almost want to leave that in. All right, I'm joking. 3, 2, 1. On the other side here is the Senate elections. I mean, talk to us about the macro political environment, because at the same time, Trump effect aside, it's not like Republicans aren't up 9 or 10 points or whatever on the generic ballot. Georgia already a barely, purple-ish state and historically Republican. How does this play out now in the Senate races specifically that are coming up in 2022?
Yeah, this is the worry for Republicans right now, is that that Donald Trump will work against those advantages that Republicans have in November, going against a crowd of, historically advantaged during midterm elections, being the party out of power. And Herschel Walker is Donald Trump's candidate for Senate. And he might be the only candidate of all the 8 candidates that Donald Trump endorsed who doesn't need Donald Trump's endorsement at all. He has such high name recognition, such high visibility in Georgia. He's the celebrity candidate who also has Mitch McConnell's backing, and of course this famous, heroic stance as a former UGA football star. So all those together, Herschel Walker is trying to play this sort of above the board campaign, not focusing on his rivals, focusing only on Raphael Warnock. But what he doesn't want is Donald Trump coming in and sort of confusing voters with this go vote in a rigged election rhetoric.
Right.
I mean, I feel like Georgia is ground zero for kind of the Trump paradox because, not to undercut the organizational efforts of activists, but the big thing that flipped the suburbs was also opposition to Donald Trump. And so on the one hand, he was a great boon to the Democratic Party and it helps him get over the finish line in these 2 key Senate races. On the other hand, he's also very energizing for a Republican base that continues to love this guy. So how do you think this is ultimately all going to shake out, Greg?
Yeah, you're exactly right. His popularity among Republicans is still in Georgia is still in the high 70s in recent polls. It's not quite 90s anymore, but it's still the 70s. And still a significant number of Republican voters in Georgia and elsewhere, but in Georgia, say that they're more likely to vote for Donald Trump. They're more likely to vote for a Trump-backed candidate than not. And that's going to continue to play out in Georgia. And you're right. The suburbs flip not just because of Democratic messaging, but also because of this revulsion to Trump. With him not on the ballot in the May primaries and the November election, we're not sure how that will play out. But we do know that even if he's not on the ballot, he is still seeking to shape Georgia in a number of ways.
Yeah. Well, Greg, we can't appreciate you enough for joining the show. Everybody go and buy the book. We're going to have a link down there in the description. Let's get it up to the top of the bestsellers chart. Really appreciate you joining us, sir. Thank you.
Yep. Go give that
Thank you
puppy
so much,
scratching
man.
at the door some love.
Yes. Give him some.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, you guys
you're
can hear
good.
that?
We don't mind.
You're good. No,
Don't
it's
worry about
fine.
it at all.
Greg, great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Good
man.
to see you too. I'll go give the dog some hugs.
Okay. And thank you guys for watching. We'll have more for you later. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.